I'm a Sonic fan. The impact that his franchise has had on me makes me use him as a standard when rating other media. The franchise I use this on the most is Mario, and his movies are no exception. Now, I've played my fair share of Mario games. Odyssey, 3D World, and Galaxy to name a few. The only of these that I haven't beaten is Mario Galaxy, so that might make my opinion of this movie a bit more favorable since I'm not familiar with the game's lore. And of course, I came to the theater prepared, as any moviegoer would. What better merch is there to wear to the Mario Galaxy movie than Sonic? This video will have two main sections in it, the one without spoilers and the one with them. If you would like to skip to the spoilers, skip to the time on screen right now, but without further ado, let's get into it. As far as plots go, I guess this might have been alright for Mario media, but as a theatrical film, I felt it lacked a lot of elements that would have made the movie interesting. Side quests overtook the movie for one. The main drive of this movie was solid at the beginning, but I think that the writers didn't know how to make it much of a challenge to get there, since any destination is just a few warp stars away. Not that any of these side quests were awful, but it felt like filler at best. I never really had this issue with most of the Sonic movies. The only time I can really think of a time they went on a side quest was the wedding scene in the second movie, but other than that, everything served to achieve the main goal of the movie. Back to the Mario Galaxy movie, humor was pretty low effort a lot of the time. And although I did laugh a couple of times, the jokes were very consistently cheap for the most part. I must be in the minority on that though, since my whole theater was laughing at every joke in the scene at the beginning. I did like how Mario and Luigi were introduced, and they made a clever plumbing reference with the line, "I found the problem." Yoshi, Prowler, felt like the most game-accurate character. Although I felt that his voice was slightly off throughout the movie. It wasn't too noticeable, but maybe like his voice was too low or something. My favorite character in this movie was definitely Fox McCloud. When he was on screen, stuff got done. Mario and his team need to make it to another galaxy, and he was just on it straight away. He was a breath of fresh air character-wise and plot-wise. He led with his backstory, which was a great way to make the audience care about him. In fact, I was so invested with his character that I think he would do very well in a spin-off movie. I did have a massive problem with the tense scenes though. It mostly felt tense because of the music, and the acting just wasn't that great to me. When in the finale of the movie, it didn't really feel like a finale to me. It just felt like a build-up to one. I'll go much more in depth to that in the spoilers. As far as characters go, Luigi being able to be in the entire movie gave him so much more to work with. He was a lot more brave than in the first movie, despite keeping his cautious personality, which made him consistent. Now, Mario, I mean, he's alright. Like, maybe the first movie was the only arc he needed, but he was exactly the same as the first movie. He's your typical leading, mostly confident guy who can get thrown around a lot and be fun. His character wasn't terrible by any means, but it could have had some motivation put behind it to make his role more memorable. I do think that Peach was better in this movie. For those who watched my review of the first Mario movie when it came out, you know that I didn't like her being seen as a character who can do no wrong ever. As I said before, if a character never makes mistakes, you don't have as much of the incentive to care about them since you know they'll always make it out alright. In this movie, however, she did show a very small amount of flaws near the end when she dropped something important after trying to use it and failing. Yoshi felt the most game accurate, and I think he was one of the highlights of the movie, especially when he retrieved an important item before a chase scene. I didn't really find Bowser Jr. too intimidating. His villainous behavior seemed kind of forced, and when it came down to it, the worst things he really did were in his debut fight scene. I did like his paintbrush though, and really wish he used it more. And finally, Rosalina. She was shown to have flaws at the beginning of the movie, which helped show the conflict quickly. Her action scenes were entertaining, but I did find it odd how they were always cut short for a reason I'll explain later. Now, to get into the spoilers. The strangest part of the movie for me is that Princess Peach's backstory is not that interesting. According to the movie, she and Rosalina are sisters made of stardust, which is already kinda strange, but I appreciate the creativity. Like mentioned at the beginning of the video, I haven't beaten Mario Galaxy, but I do know that they're not sisters. But, in this movie, the sisters have some universal power that villains want, and this leads to Rosalina sending Peach through the warp pipe that leads to Mario's world in order to keep her safe. Then she becomes a princess there. I get that Peach never really had a backstory, so they didn't come up with anything too crazy, but I have two massive problems with this. First, if Peach and Rosalina are made of stardust, why does Peach talk about not knowing who her family is? Did someone control the stardust to make both of them and then dipped? Or is Peach under the impression that she has parents and is unable to handle the fact she's made out of stardust and doesn't have any? Or by family, did she mean Rosalina? In which case, why wouldn't she say she wants to find her sister again? And even if she was referring to her sister as her family, family implies more than one person. I'm definitely reading too far into this, but I can't help but wonder. And second, if Peach is so famous to have her own storybook, why is her story so vague? Somebody must have written down her story and figured it was good enough to be turned into a book, right? And by the way, Peach being forced to leave her sister to run away from villains who want her power is a crazy bedtime story. I did find it interesting how Mario and Luigi got turned into babies. It wasn't too plot relevant, but it made Yoshi a more admirable character. Fox carried that part of the movie though. His ego and constant barrel rolls and explosions he caused were very entertaining. And most of all, his introductory scene with full 2-dimensional animation was amazing. Talking about his whole team and reason for being there with all that 80s style was especially entertaining. I felt genuinely excited whenever I saw an action scene of his coming up, and I really wish he would have been used in the finale. Speaking of, the finale of this movie was super confusing. It looked like it was supposed to be Peach and Rosalina using their powers to break Rosalina free from some kind of power-proof bubble cage, but then it turned into Mario and Peach taking on Bowser. After Rosalina got saved, she went completely absent, and once the bridge Bowser was on got destroyed and he turned into a dry bones, I feel like the actual final fight was way too short. I did appreciate the drill power up from Mario Wonder getting used though. But the problem is, after the fight, Bowser as a dry bones was played for a joke and made the whole previous scene feel pointless. Sure, Rosalina got freed, but the only thing she really did after that was help rebuild the castle with her Loomis. And if I'm being honest, she kinda got treated like Luigi did in the first movie. She got taken down early on and thrown into a cage for the entire movie. I would argue this was way worse though, since her character was barely developed and there would have been zero consequences to the villains keeping her defeated. And I don't mean that to sound like I don't like her character, but her whole arc is based on Peach being right next to her. We never really got a reason why everyone wants her power aside from taking over the universe. Taking Sonic Movie 3 as an example, we learn why Shadow is the way that he is, which is because Maria died. When Sonic thinks that Tom is dead, that brings him to attack Shadow out of rage, and once Sonic realizes that revenge is pointless, he forgives Shadow and the two team up to take on Gun's forces and save Earth from a laser meant to wipe out all mankind. The reason that the story worked is because the characters had time to breathe and the writers took time to tell a story about forgiveness instead of making the villains attack for the heck of it. It's an earned resolution, and it makes the characters feel real. Now, to continue talking about Rosalina's fights, something that really confused me is she never actually won a single battle in the entire movie. At the beginning of the movie, she loses a couple of times, which is fair. I mean, it's the beginning of the movie. You can't just win right away. You kind of have no plot. But later on, when she's captured, she breaks free temporarily, and then she just gets captured again. And then once she's free, she doesn't even have to deal with anyone anymore. And I just find that super strange that a character that's marketed to be probably the most powerful character of the entire cast just loses every battle. I feel like it would have been nice if they gave her a bit more respect, because she did blow up that mech at the beginning of the movie, and that did look pretty cool. But I feel like it would have been nice just to have her win at least the last battle. One example of something that could have been done is maybe she has another one-on-one with Bowser Jr., except he's not in a mech this time, and instead it's just her versus him. And I feel like that would be a real nice way for her to prove her strength, because then she knows his powers, she knows how to counter them, and even though she was in prison for most of the movie, I think that would have been a bit of a better conclusion. I think that Bowser was handled alright, but when it came down to it, he was pretty sidelined in favor of Bowser Jr. Their father-son bond was nice to see, and I think that they focused on that a good amount. His fatherly mindset overtook his change of heart against Mario and Luigi, and I like that direction. But still, it would have been nice to see him do a bit more for the plot. And finally, I feel that Mario and Luigi showed up way too little in their own movie. It felt like they were only there half the time due to Peach and Toad going on a side quest chasing that monkey. Also, Jump Up Superstar being used for the jackpot room was a pleasant surprise. It seemed there was a third of a movie dedicated to each subplot. One for Peach, Toad, and Rosalina, one for Bowser and Bowser Jr., and one for Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi. The team regrouped at the end of the movie for the most part, but I think that messed with the pacing a bit. Another thing that pleasantly surprised me about this movie is that it was more focused on Mario Galaxy than I thought it would be. When I saw the trailers and all the promotions, I thought that this would be maybe 50% Mario Galaxy and then maybe 50% Mario Odyssey, but they really subverted my expectations, and I'm really glad that they did. There were plenty of musical references and sound effects from Mario Galaxy, which helped the atmosphere of the movie. That's right, there's a bonus section. Something that struck me as odd, not just about the Mario Galaxy movie, but almost every other animated movie that is released recently, is that they go to crazy measures to spoil way too much of their movie. There came a point where so many promos for this movie were releasing that I felt like it would damage my overall watching experience. That's not to say I disliked all the marketing of this movie, since I enjoy the McDonald's collaborations and the short ads on YouTube, but when it comes to TV spots, I think Nintendo needs to chill out a bit in the future. And while they didn't spoil every character in this movie, spoiling Fox McCloud was definitely a mistake in my opinion. The review got a lot of people hyped, of course, but it took some wonder out of the movie, and I think that damaged my perception of it overall. I mean, the only character that wasn't spoiled was Mr. Game & Watch. I enjoyed his cameo, and it was way better than the Pikmin who showed up for 2 seconds and did nothing, but I think if they had to spoil any character, I would choose Rob since it fits with the NES era of Nintendo, because they're definitely trying to appeal to that era of Mario as well, with the inclusion of Wart from Mario 2. I never remembered this being an issue with any of the Sonic movies. I would say that that was because marketing was different at the time, but honestly, I don't think that's the case. Those movies had 2 or 3 trailers, and that was it aside from the occasional TV spot. Keeping the reveals as small as they were, even though they kinda stunk at the moment, really helped me enjoy each movie much more. And finally, the cliffhanger. I went in fully expecting Link since I know a Legend of Zelda movie is planned, but they really surprised me and decided to go with Daisy instead. I don't know much about her, but since, well, shipping was talked about through the movie, I think that Luigi and Daisy will get into a relationship in the 3rd movie. And you know what? They should do that. My boy Luigi deserves it. Overall, I think that the Super Mario Galaxy movie was okay. It confused me quite a lot, but at the end of the day, I think it's good if you turn your brain off to watch it. But what do you think of this movie? Is it peak? Is it a dumpster fire? Or is it somewhere in the middle? Be sure to let me know in the comment section below. But anyways, that's it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye. The only of these that I haven't beaten is Mario Galaxy, so that might make my opinion of this movie a more favorable one since I'm not... Foreshadowing.